In 1926, Dr. Sidney Long and a group of his friends founded Norfolk Naturalists Trust. Known today as Norfolk Wildlife Trust, for 90 years it has been protecting our rare wildlife. Visiting its nature reserves and meeting its wardens and volunteers, we'll be exploring its 90-year history. This is Wild Norfolk. In 1926, Cley Marshes came up for sale for the first time in a generation. It was well known as a site for watching rare birds and for its breeding and wintering birds as well. A prominent Norfolk naturalist of the day, Dr. Sidney Long, who was a medical doctor at the Norfolk and Norwich and Jenny Lind hospitals, knew that the site was too important to be lost. So he got together a group of 12 friends and they bought Cley Marshes. The next week they met in the George Hotel here in Cley and agreed to form a trust. This came into legal being in November of the same year and was known as Norfolk Naturalists Trust. Since the start, one North Norfolk family has cared for Cley Marshes. Robert Bishop was appointed the reserve's first watcher in 1926, charged with preserving its habitats and breeding birds, and a compatible aim to early 20th century conservationists managing the winter duck shoot, which persisted here until 1966.
It's been in the family ever since it's been a nature reserve way back in 1926, when my great-grandfather was appointed watcher. He lived up on the hilltop here. And then he retired. My father put in for the job, and we all lived in Watcher's Cottage, and that's where we were all born. I live in the house I was born in. Then he needed an assistant. Unfortunately, I was appointed as assistant for him in 1972. And then in 1979, when he retired, I got the job as warden. My mother worked probably as hard as my father, because if he was out on the marsh, there was answering telephones and people constantly coming to the door, because there weren't any visitors then. If anyone wanted to go on the marsh, they had to come and get permission from the house. And communication was always awkward. I mean, I remember if there was anything wrong with the children or father had to get back home, mother used to hang a sheet outside the bedroom window, and he'd see that and come off the marsh.
Until the 1970s boom in birdwatching, Cley Marshes remained a quiet, intimate place. Each day, perhaps half a dozen visitors would meet Billy outside his hut to be guided around a marsh which had pools only among the reeds by the east bank. The scrapes and hides were added from the 1960s, funded by local people whose names they still bear, to create a reserve which today is hugely popular with birds and with people. Now this is Bishop's Hide, Bernard. How did it come to have that name?
Well, it was paid for by Lord Buxton,
who was a
great friend of the family. He was actually out shooting the day I was born, and he came round the house and saw me as a baby, and friends of the family ever since. Great friend of my father, and he paid for it and had it built here in recognition of the work that the bishops had done on the marsh. Obviously, as you well know, most of the poles and hides have got names to them, and this came through when I first started working with them. We were making the scrapes. The trust obviously didn't have the resources and the money that they have now, so they were paid for by individual people who put money into a pot to get the work done.
Cley Marshes has a special place in the hearts of many Norfolk families, none more so than the royal family, who have visited regularly over many years.
Well, of course, the royal family used to come shooting here because it was shot on until 1966, and they'd come and sometimes get changed in the house. And also Prince Charles used to come as a young lad.
For the 90 years that Norfolk Wildlife Trust has been here, the Bishop family have been protecting this beautiful place, witnessing wartime defences, floods, twitches for rare birds, and even thieves determined to steal the eggs of rare birds nesting on the marsh.
Well, the Acheson came back in the mid-70s. The first time they bred in Norfolk for 150 years. We had 2 pairs nest here, and we had to guard them day and night from egg collectors. And I mean, we had numerous occasions. I worked very closely at that time with Joe Reed, who was on Blakeney Point, and we were known for the RSPB investigation officers as probably the A team at catching egg collectors. And I vividly remember one night I got two guys in the North Hyde watching, and we had CB radios in that time. And round about midnight, there was a call on the Bernard, there's somebody in the middle of the North Scrape. So I tried to get dressed in the dark because of our light, and because everything went on back to front and inside out. Went out there. Anyway, eventually we caught him at Salthouse Beach car park, and that was a big success. One of my favourite things is sitting on I've got a seat halfway out to the Dorks Hide. That's quite funny really, because when I first took over I put a seat there, and my father said to me, "Oh, I don't know why you want to put that there." He said, "No one won't be sitting on that, they won't be getting out of the hides." And bless him, that weren't that long after that he had a heart condition, and he was the one who was sitting on the seat. And my favourite thing is probably sitting on there in the spring when the lapwings are nesting. You know, the lovely call and the sound of the wings is really good. I mean, it's been a wonderful job. I've loved doing my job. You know, I've had a lovely time. Shame it's now come to, well, not a close, because I'm going to be here helping George, I hope, as much as I possibly can. And I'm looking forward to working with him.
Aside from the dramatic events and visits by members of the royal family, what's special about Cley Marshes are its common birds that breed and winter here, and the thousands of people that flock here each year to see them. After 90 years of preservation by the Bishop family and Norfolk Wildlife Trust, Cley Marshes truly remains one of the treasures of Wild Norfolk.